Have you ever wondered how a tree gets water all the way from its roots to its tippy-top leaves? I mean, it doesn't have a heart to pump it. Or how about our own cells? How do they stay so perfectly balanced? Well, the answer is this silent, incredibly powerful force that's at work all around us and inside us right now. Today, we're going to break down the science of osmosis. Now, when I say osmosis, you might be thinking of that company that helps you cram medical facts into your brain. And yeah, it's a clever name, for sure. But today, we're going back to the original, the scientific OG. So what is this thing really? At its absolute core, osmosis is just the movement of water. It's nature's automatic balancing act, trying to even out the concentration between two different areas. And here's the wild part. It just happens. No battery pack needed, zero energy required.
And the main character in this whole story is something called a semi-permeable membrane. The best way to think of it is like a bouncer at a really exclusive club. See, it's got this super strict door policy. Tiny little water molecules, yeah, they can slip right on through. But the bigger particles, like salt ions, nope, they are not getting past that velvet rope.
All right, to really see this in action, let's set up a classic lab experiment. Just imagine a beaker filled with salt water, but it's split right down the middle by one of those picky membranes we just talked about.
Okay, so we've got two sides, compartment A and compartment B. And in the water, the salt, which is just sodium chloride, has already dissolved and broken apart into its little sodium and chloride ions.
Now, at the very beginning, we're going to make sure the concentration, the amount of salt ions, is exactly the same on both sides. And when everything is perfectly balanced like this, well, there's a fancy word for that. We call it isotonic.
And this is what equilibrium looks like. Now, don't get me wrong, water molecules are still zipping back and forth between the two sides all the time. But because the concentrations are equal, for every single molecule that goes from A to B, another one comes right back from B to A. So the net movement, it's zero. Nothing's really changing. You know, here's a fun way to think about it. It's like you've got two huge dance parties happening in connected warehouses. The little water molecules are like the guests. They can easily wander back and forth between the two rooms. But those bigger salt ions, they're the VIPs. They're stuck in their own section.
So everything's in perfect harmony. But what happens if we decide to mess with that perfect balance? Let's go ahead and tip the scales.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to dump a bunch more salt, our solute, but only into compartment A. And just like that, boom, equilibrium is gone. This imbalance gives us a couple of important new words. Side A, now jam-packed with salt, is what we call hypertonic. Think hyper like, it's got more stuff. Side B, which is now the less concentrated one, is hypotonic. And this difference in concentration creates a kind of potential, a pull on the water, that scientists call osmotic pressure. Now, one thing about nature is that it absolutely hates imbalance. So the whole system is going to start scrambling to fix itself and get back to equilibrium. The question is, how?
Well, think about it. Those big salt ions are stuck on side A, remember? They can't cross the membrane. So the only thing that can move to fix the imbalance is the water. And that is exactly what happens. Water begins to migrate from the less salty side, B, over to the super salty side, A, trying to dilute it and get things back in balance.
And again, let's be clear. This is a net migration. It's not a one-way street. Molecules are still moving both ways. But now, way more water is flowing from B to A than is going the other way. And this just keeps on happening until the concentrations on both sides are perfectly equal. And isotonic once again.
Okay, so we've seen what happens, we've seen how it happens, but the biggest question, the real scientific question, is why? Why does the water seem to feel this pressure to move over and dilute the saltier side? What's actually pushing it?
Yeah, what are the deep physical laws of the universe that are actually driving this whole thing we call osmosis? Because it's not some kind of magic, it's pure physics.
And it really all boils down to two fundamental ideas. First up is kinetic energy. That just means every single molecule and ion in that beaker is in constant, jittery motion. They're always moving. And second is entropy, which is really just a fancy way of saying that all that movement is completely random and chaotic.
I love this analogy. Just picture every single particle in there as a toddler. You know for a fact they're going to move, but you have absolutely no idea where they'll be in the next 2 minutes. It's pure, unpredictable, chaotic motion. So you take all that constant, random, toddler-like movement and you make it crash up against a barrier that only lets the water pass through. What happens? Well, osmosis becomes the most likely, the most statistical outcome. It's not a choice. It's just the inevitable result of probability in physics playing out on a microscopic scale.
And that's really our key takeaway. Osmosis isn't some active choice that water makes. It's the passive, statistical result of random motion, always working to create balance and equilibrium across a selective barrier.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty crucial thought. This isn't just a lab experiment in a beaker. This exact process is happening in the trillions of cells in your body right now. So, what happens to us when that fundamental, delicate dance of water gets thrown critically off balance? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.